Okay, so, all right, we are officially live. Today is Wednesday, January 12th. This is Reflection Artist Live number 59 with special guest Levi Gates, who is brand development manager for the RAG company. You may have seen his face, throughout the energy of the industry that he brings. But throughout the past couple of years, he's been involved with detailing for 25 years. He's ran his own shop. He's been a supervisor at other shops to help manage them. And of course, just being involved in the industry in the past 7+ years and, being involved with IDA. So he plays a big role, wears a lot of hats. So just want to dive in for those that don't know who Levi is and or who, those who do maybe get to know him a little bit better, of course. So Levi, thank you on behalf of Buff and Shine and being on the Reflection Artist podcast. And let us know how you got into the wonderful world of detailing and where it all started.
Well, thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. I'm excited to finally be on the show and get to do this with you. So yeah, like you said, I work for the RAG company, and it's one of those situations that I just kind of fell into. To start my story, I've been a detailer. I like to say I've been a detailer my whole life. My parents started detailing to make a little extra side money when they were first married. My dad has always been a jack of all trades, master of none. He's builds custom furniture. He flips houses. He builds hot rods. He does. I mean, my dad can pretty much do anything and everything. And so when they first got married, he started detailing cars and making a little money. And I remember hearing a story that when I was born, my parents had just bought their first brand new car. They bought a Datsun 510, and my dad loved that little car. And he said my mom's water broke on the passenger seat and in the carpet of the car while he was driving to the hospital. Now, for those of us now that have been in the detail industry for a very long time, when you have a brand new car, the car was like 3 months old when I was born. So for my dad, here's his first brand new car, and there's amniotic fluid all over the carpets and seats. So he drops my mom off at the hospital, gets her checked in. He says while they're waiting, he's itchy. He's like, I don't know how long we're going to be. I don't know what this is going to do. I got to get back over to there's a car wash down the street with a shop with a wet dry vac. If I can at least get it sucked out and throw some towels down, then I can, have a better chance. Cause you never know. I mean, you've got kids.
WeatherTech wasn't around back then. So
right. Yeah. So, and you don't know, my daughter from the time we got to the hospital to the time she came out was 12 hours. And that 12 hours flies by, right? So, yeah. And I'm sure it was the same with your kids. So yep. It's like, you don't know that time limit you're going to be there. So my dad was like freaking out because he's like, it's going to get bad. So he literally told my mom, I'll be right back. And he remembered there was a car wash half a mile down the road from the hospital. He hopped in the car, drove over there as fast as he could. And then he goes, it was the fastest extraction I'd ever done. He goes, I got him out. He goes, I had towels in the trunk. I put him down on the seats. I drove back to the hospital. I cracked the windows and I let it sit. And I thought, I'll shampoo him after the baby's born. Let's just get this done. And as he's walking back into the hospital, my grandparents walk up, his parents, and they had stopped and gotten milkshakes at the local drive-in because they had called him and said, hey, here comes the baby. So they meet him. So my dad walks back upstairs. And he walks in first into the room with a milkshake. And my mom goes off on him, thinking that he left her to go get a milkshake.
Oh my gosh.
And he's trying to explain it. No, my parents, they got this. They've got one. I got one for you, but I forgot. Let me go get it from my mom. It's not. And so anyway, so I came into this world to a detailer lifestyle, basically. So, then they started detailing cars. My mom jokes that she's the one that taught me how to wax cars because they would carry me. She would put me in a, front pack or backpack as they would work on cars on the weekends. And so she said that, she'd be trying to wax a car and I'd be on the front pack getting my hands in the wax and her having to try and get it off me and all that kind of stuff. So that was how I kind of grew up. That became my chores when I was a kid, was I had to wash and wax the cars. Instead of, I mowed lawns too, but like take the dog out, take the trash out, wash and wax the car every week if you want your allowance. So
what were the back then in that time frame, what were the services like? What were you guys doing as far as the service lineup? Not necessarily you guys particularly, but maybe
my
that
parents.
time frame.
Yeah. So my dad charged $35, and this would have been early 80s. I was born in 1980, and my dad would charge anywhere from about $35 to $40, and he would wash, wax, dress the tires, vacuum the carpets, and detail, clean the dash and door panels and things like that. He never really shampooed stuff. They're very simple, basic services for a lot of those cars back then. He could buff out scratches. He had an old Milwaukee rotary that was a beast, and it probably weighed about 25 pounds. And he taught me how to use it at 16 because I decided to wash. He had a 1985 Toyota Supra that was black, and he had taught me the week before how to wash using Comet, how to wash oxidation off of single stage. And so we washed one of our pickups with that my dad collected old Chevy trucks. That was his thing. And so we're washing the oxidation off with Comet and green scouring pads. And he's like, we're basically wet sanding this, but we're going to wash it this way. It's going to get a lot of the heavy oxidation off, and then we'll go out and we'll polish it. And I thought, I got to get my allowance. I got to wash and wax my dad's Supra. I should use some Comet. Sounds great. I'm 16. I think this is a good idea. And I proceed to wash his clear coated black Supra with Comet. I then see all the scratches that I've put in the car. And my dad comes home and sees all the scratches that I've put in his car. And that's when that rotary popped out. And he hands it to me and goes, "You're getting all those out, and here's how you use it." And so at 16, I learned how to use a rotary. And I didn't burn anything, but that was a big machine. It was an unruly machine. That was it. Then I went and got a job at a car wash at 16, 17, right down the street here, literally half a mile away where I work now, which is really freaky. That 25 years later, I'm just down the street from where I started. So that's always kind of fun. But I got a job there washing cars. It was a full service car wash. We did express detailing. So that's where I learned how to shampoo carpets for the first time. So we did just express hand waxes. I remember learning from the detailer there that was the charge, and he was like, "All right, bro, we're gonna wax this." It came back in, it got washed, it's coming in, we're gonna do a quick hand wax. And then when we pulled it out, it was covered in wax dust because we're using cotton terry towels and stuff. Oh, and he's like, "Let's just run it through the car wash again and knock all the dust off, and then we'll just dry it off and it'll be good." I didn't know we were washing all the wax we had just put on the vehicle. But through all that time, from when I started till I was older, the only products my dad ever used were Pro products. So Pro Car Beauty, that was what he bought here locally, and that's what he used. So that's kind of what I grew up with. And then there was another company that was making products locally. They were white labeling, and it was called Bates Auto Beauty. And Bates was buying all of his products from PNS. So I had been using, so that was my dad's cabinet, was Pro and PNS. So, and I didn't know that until I ran into Spike Bates one day. He came here to the rag company to buy some towels, this 85-year-old detailer. And he just knew me as a Gates. And so as my dad's son, he always remembered me from when I was a little kid. And he was like, "When did you guys start selling PNS?" And I said, "Well, we've been selling the double black line and blah, blah." And he goes, "They've been making products for me, for years." He goes, "I've been with business with them for almost 30 years making products." So I was like, whoa, I grew up on those. So that's crazy. So it's kind of one of those things that I didn't realize at the time. So
that's cool. That's really
cool. So then I moved from the car washes. After I left the car wash, I went to a dealership detail shop. Started doing a little more learning reconditioning. Then I moved to another car wash, ran their detail shop. Then I moved to another car wash, ran their detail shop. And then I got into a detail shop and I was there for almost 10 years. I got there at about 2003 and I left in 2011. That shop was a production detail shop that at the height of the business itself, it's still around, it's a great detail shop. But at the height, we had 25 employees and we were doing about 30 cars a day, and it's dealership detailing. And that's where I learned my speed. And that's where I learned an efficiency on what things can get clean, what things can't. And I joke, that's where I put my miles in under my belt in terms of the number of cars I've detailed. That was a piece rate job, which is brutal. If anybody knows, that's brutal. You know, we were starting at $35 a car. That's what we were getting paid. And we were charging $150 to the dealerships. And we were doing 3-stage cut and polishes. We were doing rotoring every car. We were doing full bore stuff. I mean, stuff that I look back now and I go, I would be charging $1,000 to $1,500 to even do what I was doing to these dealership cars for $150, you know.
Yeah, back in 2008, when I got involved with detailing, the previous owner who I adapted the business from or bought it from, he was doing a lot of dealer work, and it was more wholesale work, to say, not the dealership directly. Guys flipping cars that had really good businesses in that time frame. And it was $1.25, maybe $1.50 if we were lucky.
Yeah, if you were lucky.
And they expected the world, inside, outside, engine, this, that, and it was just, and you didn't think nothing of it because you really didn't know the difference. That was the common denominator, right, for everything.
Yeah, and everybody did it. All other detail shop. No one was doing these custom stuff. No one was doing these, you know, no one was doing ceramic coatings. No, there wasn't the industry that there is now for the detailer. You had a guy on a truck, and the guy on the truck for me was Tom Smith, who owns Buff Bright.
Very cool.
So Tom was my guy on the truck. He showed up every Monday at every location. Tom was my only source of education at the time, because we had the forums, but I was never a big computer guy at the time. So I never sat and looked at forums. And when I was off at 5, I was off at 5, right? Yeah. I didn't eat, sleep, and breathe detailing. I just did it because I was good at it. And I enjoyed it. It was one of those jobs I could keep doing and didn't get burned out, so to speak. So Tom Smith became if I had a question about a product, if I had a question about a technique or anything that I was having an issue with, I'd call him. I'd go over to his house. There were many late nights he'd be showing me a new product, and he really helped me grow into who I am today. He was my education, basically. That was how I got better. And any question I had, he at least had an answer, or he'd find an answer. That was when, you know, basically once I got out of that shop, I ran that shop for like 10 years. And then I got approached by 2 guys, basically 2 dealers that owned a dealership. They're partners. One of them I'd been friends with for 20 years. The other one I had only known just because I'd pick up cars and detail them from him. And I had only known him for a couple of years, but I thought they were good guys. My 20-year friend I was down with for him. And he goes, "Hey, remember when we talked about starting a detail shop?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, and he called me one night. I was driving home. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You want to do that still?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I just rented a building. Do you want to start tomorrow?" And I said, "What?" And he goes, "You build me a detail shop. I make you a partner. The 3 of us start detailing cars out of here. You know, you detail for my dealership and my dealership only, and then you do whatever the hell you want." But so that's what we did. So I walked in and told my wife, and she was like, "Wait, so it's kind of your own business?" And I said, "No, it is my business. I just have 2 partners, but I only have to detail 1 dealership, and that dealership specialized in Suburbans, of all things." That was one thing they sold really well. So I was like, and I remember telling one of my buddies, and he goes, "Man, they only sell Suburbans. That means you're only going to detail Suburbans for them." And I said, "Well,
or only drive one,
or only drive one," which is what I have now. So, and I was like, it doesn't matter. And but that was the first time. Now I had a business, and I got this little 2-bay shop. It was 1,600 square feet. It had a quarter lot, like on a city block. It was a quarter of the city block that was fully fenced in. So I had this massive bullpen area. And so I basically built out an indoor wash bay, an outdoor wash bay, and then I had a detail bay. And I built it so that I could expand it as best I could and still be on that small footprint. And by the time I ran the business for about 5 years, had a great time. We put out 150 cars a month out of that shop in a mixture of retail details and dealership work. I had a very small dealer network.
If you don't mind me asking, what were you looking at per month on your gross revenue for that?
We were doing about 40 to 50,000 a month. So
and that was how many employees again?
That was 6 employees. So not bad, but not great money. And I was exploring PPF, and I had been doing ceramic coatings, and I'd spent 2 years before I sold the business doing coatings through OptiCoat. And I was the first one in the state of Idaho doing coatings. And that would have been
time for coatings.
That would have been 2012, 2013.
Yep.
And I remember I tried to get on with Modesta. I tried to get on with CarPro.
Modesta was the shit for a while. That was, I mean,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it still is.
No,
it had its name like Ceramic
it was the
Pro has
one.
its name now. Yeah.
Yeah, and Modesta was hard. It was difficult because Cougar was selling it down in Salt Lake. And they were kind of like between Cougar, and then there was someone in Seattle that was selling it. And I was just I'm 8 hours from Seattle, 4 hours from Salt Lake. So they were like, hey, you're kind of close. We'll think about it.
Compared to now, right? Where they're stacking them on each other,
right. Yeah.
1 unit away.
Yeah. At the time, it was very hard.
It was.
But I remember ordering, because you had to order the product, then you had to do it on these test panels, and then you had that they would mail you, and then you had to mail the test panels back to Japan to get approved by the creators of Modesta to get those things, to get your certification so you could sell it, or you had to go to their ModestaCon, which was once a year.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, how are we going to do this?
Was that? Is that not that wouldn't be necessarily based on high spot, because that would be visual. What do they go back and do, like a surface reading, a film build to make sure you're?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I just remember reading the whole thing and going like, wow, all right. So I kept looking. I got on with I got CarPro. I started testing that, using it, trying to get with Corey to get me become an installer. And he had issues with my photos, which is fine.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too.
And so I didn't become a CarPro installer. So I was like,
the common denominator. Your photos are a little blurry.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. And now I look back and I'm like, man, the technology back then, we didn't have great cameras. None of us had great cameras. We had to go buy a fancy camera just to do this. So I thought, all right. So that's when I got with OptiCoat. Dan Williams was doing a training in Seattle. And so I was like, that's a piece of cake. We can jump on a plane. Flights are cheap. And so me and Matt Ward, who was at the time my assistant manager, 2 of us flew up to Seattle, took the class, and that's how we had just become authorized installers. And then he said, please come take the class. So we went up, took the class, and that's where I met a lot of folks. That was the first time I met Shane Mayfield there, John Clevin, a Metropolitan Detail, and Steck now. And met a bunch of guys up there. That it was great. It was kind of like I'm still friends with all those detailers now that I met that very first training class that I did. And then that was also when I had started. That was right when I started working with the rag company. At the time, I was looking for towels. I needed, if I was going to be bringing on these higher end services, I had been using for years just Kirkland Signature 80/20 yellow towels, because that's what you had, and the white cotton terries. So I'd buy cotton terries to do interiors and everything else, and then I'd use the Kirklands to remove wax and polish and sealant, and that was how we did it.
The go-to.
And then blue surgical Huck towels for interior, for windows. And so I thought, man, if I'm going to get into these coatings, if I'm going to start raising these prices, I got to find ways, I got to get better stuff. I got to really make an effort here. And so I started looking for towels and found, 3 different brands. URO-FIBER wasn't URO-FIBER then, it was Microfiber Tech. And I was in San Diego with Ian. And then Corey was selling Microfiber Madness and the Rag Company. And I thought, so only 3 companies in the US really distributing high-end microfiber. So I started looking at each one. And then I remember one morning I walked in, I got on my laptop, typed in the Rag Company again, and it popped up their Instagram link, and I clicked on it because the picture, they only had like 5 pictures on their Instagram page at the time. It was brand new. The company had just been recently purchased and had by the current owners, Jeff and Carolyn, and Dane had just started the Instagram page. And I noticed the reflection of a logo, and the reflection of the window was downtown Boise. And I was like, that's weird. Typed in Rag Company again in Google, and it popped up the address, and the address was their actual house because they were running it out of their garage at the time. And it was a few miles down the road. And I was like, this is weird. I get on their website, super professional website. And I was like, all right, send a support question, email Jeff. Hey, weird question. Do you have a storefront? I see your website. I see the house on Google, maps. Like what can I come see your storefront? If it's a garage, I don't mind. Can I come check out some towels? And he wrote me back instantly and was like, oh my gosh, yes, we just moved into our first retail location. And they had moved out of the garage and into like a little 3,000 square foot shop. And so that's how I went and met them. We spent 3 hours that day at the Rag Company, me and my crew. I brought 4 guys with me. And we sat and just devoured this information that Jeff had about microfiber. We learned weaves, we learned blends, and I was like, holy cow. Like we walked out of there, I spent like $250 on towels. We walked out and we were freaking out because we realized we still had like 3 cars that we had customers showing up. And it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're like, dudes, we got people showing up at 5. We got to get back and get those cars done. And so we all hustled back, got the cars knocked out. And my little brother, he had been working for me at the time. And he goes, hey, where'd you guys go? I got these cars prepped, but he never called me. And he goes, where'd you go? And I said, oh, we went down to the Rag Company. They got all these towels. They got tons of microfiber product. Like they're even selling Optimum, like totally crazy. And he goes, oh yeah, Dane Hennen. I went to high school. I went to high school with him. And I was like, you've worked for me for a year. You've been using microfiber towels for a year. You didn't think at any time to tell me that there's a company that your buddy's parents just bought that's down the road.
Oh shit. I remember you telling me that.
It's like, thanks. Go wash a car. Like, it was one of those. It's like,
I really
garbage, go wash a car. Thank you for helping me in this situation. But that's how family, my sister would do that, where she'd be working she was a nanny for a number of years, and she'd be working for a customer, and they'd go, man, my car's a mess. I need to get it detailed. And she'd go, yeah. And not once go, you should call my brother because he's got a detail shop and he'll detail your car. That'd be great. He'll give you, I'll get you a just that kind of stuff. That's pretty normal for my family. So we got in with the Rag Company, and that's when I started buying towels. Matt and I started going and having lunch at the Rag Company almost every day for a week, just learning everything we could about it. I was so fascinated by it. And that was how the relationship that I built with Jeff and Carolyn and Dane at the time was just because I became a regular. That's how I met Sydney Gwynn. She was a regular there at the Rag Company, where she would come in and buy towels. And we were always 2 ships passing in the night. And so Jeff would be like, oh, you got to meet Levi to Sydney. And then I'd walk in and he'd go, oh, you just missed Sydney. She was just here. You got to meet her. And so that was how we, learned about each other. I knew she had a shop in up in Hidden Springs, just up the hill. And I had customers that lived up there that would use her. But she wasn't doing heavy detailing at the time. She was just starting out she was doing a lot of washes and interior cleans. She wasn't doing a lot of heavy stuff. So they would get their car maintenance by her, and then they would bring them down to me and get them fully detailed and stuff. So
Nice.
it was kind of I knew of her and knew of her services. So, but that was how I got in with the rag company. It was just, I started showing up, just buying products, hanging out with them, getting to know them as a business, as a family, and getting to learn them. Then one day, Jeff and I, we started, he basically said, we got to shoot some videos. Would you mind being in it? We'd love to use your shop as a spot. It coincided with Ivan coming down to do some stuff. So we shot the first few videos at night in the garage at their place. And then we said, man, this just doesn't really work. So let's do it at my detail shop. And so those first series of Optimum videos we did in my detail shop. And we hired a team from Capitol High School, the local video team, the AV club, basically, to come, and they got extra credit, and we worked them till probably 2 a.m. These high school kids holding cameras and microphones, and that was how we shot those first series of videos, was just with a whole crew of teenagers. The teacher for that department is now our main employee, one of our main employees here, Gabe Garcia. He was a family friend of the Hennens, and they were like, well, let's call Gabe, see if we can get some of his students, because he's a teacher, and we'll see. And that's how we did it. And so we started it very simply and easily, but it kind of grew, and it's grown, and it's continued to grow. But a lot of it has always been this ethos of, we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's figure out who we can talk to that knows enough to point us in the right direction. And so to make videos, we called Gabe, who at the high school, he was teaching this to his high school students on how to live stream football games and basketball games.
Little
and,
did they
and
know
baseball
that
games,
they were learning a trade that they could take away from those videos and make some money.
Three of those students are employees here now, which is crazy. So there are editors here at the rag company.
Cool. And
that's one of those
cars.
And they get to work on cars, and they get actual, it's like that we keep explaining to them, like, you guys, this people go to college for this and then get this job. You guys are right out of high school and doing this job because of the way this world works now. So, but we did that for, probably about a year, doing videos. And then Jeff and Carolyn started using me for customer service requests. So I'd be detailing cars in my shop. I'd get a call from Carolyn or Jeff. Hey, quick question. Got a customer on the phone, wants to know what's the best towel for this product, because they weren't detailers.
Yeah.
And at the time when they bought the company, it was a very, detailing wasn't a large segment of the company. There was detailing, Jan San, health and beauty, spa. They had been making a number of different towels. And so,
and that's something good that you touched on, because a lot of people only recognize the rag company, obviously, for our industry with detailing, but they've catered to so many other industries prior to this being such a big sector, like you just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, and the company was started by a little old lady and her husband. You know, microfiber has been in the US since the mid 60s, but it's been in the US as what people know as Alcantara, a microfiber suede. It wasn't in towel form. It didn't enter the US in towel form till 94. And that's when it started getting a little traction. And this old lady, Bev, that owned the rag company, in 99, she started the rag company. She went to a cleaning conference and saw this miracle towel, fell in love with it, thought it was a cool thing to sell. So she created the relationships with her factories. She created the designs and the plans of everything she wanted to do. She named the company the Rag Company, and she created her own website, and she was retired, and this became her retirement gig. Her and her husband did this out of their garage, but she created her website. She put a phone in her garage. She did all this stuff and would just run this company. And she had, when Jeff and Carolyn bought the company from her, because she had gotten sick and just couldn't do it anymore, they bought it from her. She had the Wynn Hotel. She had the Conrad. She had the Mark. She had the W. She had the Ritz-Carlton. She had Tesla. She had all these major accounts that she was supplying towels to. And it was just it was crazy. This little lady in her garage had built this entire industry, this entire brand, and built it. And then Jeff and Carolyn got it. And then they were like, let's try and see what we can do with this. Let's start playing around with this company. And so it was build a social media. Let's try some videos. Let's try this. Let's try that. And like I said, it hit a bunch of different industries at the time. It was when they started seeing an increase in detailing and more phone calls, more and more requests from detailers asking about towels. And I think that was kind of just that trend. People were starting to learn, the internet was a lot more accessible. Videos were a lot more accessible. People started seeing through social media the best towels. That was, if you remember, Justin, that's the time when Instagram really took off.
Yeah.
And that was when we started seeing what other detailers were doing. We could see what other guys were using, what other products. And I think that caused a big level of validation for a lot of us who maybe were always alone, didn't know if our work was ever good enough. We knew we were a good detailer, but we didn't know if we could stack up against, the greats in the industry. But then you start seeing, you're like, I'm going to try that combo. That guy posted, and here's a shot. I'm going to try that combo on that same type of paint. Wow, I got the same results. He's using a different type of maybe I should look at my towels. Maybe my towels are what's scratching and causing these issues. I'm not washing my towels correctly. I'm not cleaning them correctly. I'm not doing the things. Maybe I should do that. People started learning. And I think that's what really pushed the brand and the business into this. To now, our market shares of our business is 80% automotive detailing. But it was at one time 15%, 20%. So I was doing this customer service because nobody at the rag company at the time was a detailer. So I was the closest person they could call. And it got to a point where every day, all day long, I was fielding phone calls for the rag company while detailing cars in my business. And I remember having a conversation with Jeff and Carolyn saying, this is kind of hard to do because I still have my customers calling, looking to schedule appointments, get all stuff. I was on the phone nonstop. And it got to a point where I couldn't even detail a car. I couldn't work because I was just stuck in my office helping customers. So I said, can some of these questions get put in an email? And then I'll log in to that email and I'll sign up on a digital time clock or whatever. And you guys can just pay me, but I'll go through and I'll knock all those out, in my free time in the evenings. I promise I'll get back to them that day, but this is just taking up I can't run my business and do this job. This is becoming too much of a job. And I think we were probably about 20 hours a week at that point. And Jeff and Carolyn were like, totally, not a problem. Here we go. So they were super accommodating. They'd still call every once in a while if they had a person on the line that they really needed to help out. And that was fine. But that's when Jeff goes, hey, I got to go to California, meet with a company. They want to talk towels, but I don't know the products that they want to use. Do you know the products? I said, yeah, I got an idea about what they use. And that was our first trip together. And on that flight, that's when Jeff said, how do I hire somebody like you to come work here, work for me? And I said, well, why don't you just hire me? And he goes, well, I never thought that's a possibility. And at the time in my detail shop, everything was hunky dory. I mean, we were kicking butt. We were having a blast. We were looking at trying to get into PPF, and I had that priced out and figured out my ROI on what all that was going to cost for training and everything. And it meant that I was going to have to expand my shop. It meant I was going to have to build a bigger shop because it just wasn't going to feasibly work in the space we were in.
Yeah.
So I started looking for bigger shops in the area. I talked to my landlord who was 100% on board. I will build you whatever you want. No questions asked. I love you guys. I think your business is awesome. I'm in it for the long haul. Do what you want. The problem was our city that we lived in. So I'm in Boise, but then there's a strip, a very thin, maybe a mile wide strip that's 10 miles long called Garden City. And Garden City is on the river. It's beautiful riverfront property, but it was an industrial park and for lack of a better term, hobo village for a number of years when the city was in its infancy. So it never really progressed. It became car lots and mechanic shops and junkyards for a number of years, all along this beautiful river. And I loved it because my shop was a block away from the river, and I could walk over to the river and walk across a bridge, and it's gorgeous. And the river was clean and pretty, and it was a really nice spot. But the city changed its rules and said, we are no longer going to have trailer parks. We're no longer going to have automotive repair facilities. We're no longer going to have RV dealerships. We're no longer going to have, these things. So if you try to start a business of any of those, we're going to deny it. If you want to be a brewery, if you want to be a winery, if you want to be an art gallery, if you want to have some cool tech company come in, sky's the limit. Whatever you need to do, we're going to help you out. So the city Garden City has undergone a huge change. It's cool. It's a really nice little place now. Yeah. But at the time, it made a
change for the most
culture
part.
Change, huge culture change. Now it's awesome. Now I'm kicking myself as to why I didn't buy a couple properties when they were very inexpensive at the time and resell them now. But it basically made it so I couldn't expand my business. They wouldn't approve an expansion on my property. They wouldn't approve me getting another location or building to suit a new location in that area. So that meant I had to move out of the city back into Boise, which is fine. It's, that's where I live. So it's not a big deal, but Boise's much more expensive than Garden City. So I was running into a lot of roadblocks. The other thing was my trinity of partners, basically myself and my two business partners, we put in our contract that all three of us had to unanimously agree to move certain items of the business forward. So what ended up happening was me and another partner would agree on a place, a shop or a new location. The other one would go, I don't want to rent a place where I can park my boat and my RV and some other stuff. And I would go like, that's not a business thing. You can't use that as a term. But we just started butting heads. So me and the other guy started butting heads pretty hard. And it was right place, kind of right time for Jeff to go, how do I get you over here to the rag company? I couldn't build the business any bigger. I couldn't grow it without some major moving and things like that. Luckily, though, I was able to basically sell my shares back to them, and I was out. And they said, all right, I'm going to go to the rag company now. And that was scary because you're leaving a business that you built. Even if you're getting a little bit of cash, it hurts. It was a bittersweet moment. Even though I was on the bigger and better, it's a ton of sweat equity and the potential for more sweat equity, right? And it's like, am I making the right choice doing this? Am I, and I had two mentors that I talked to that are both hugely successful gentlemen. One of them just sold his company to Equifax. And, but I talked to both of them because I was like, these guys run 100 million, or $1 billion businesses. They're each worth over $100 million themselves. They know something about running a business. And I am with my little $500,000 business trying to figure out if I'm in the right to do this. And they helped me a lot. And they just, one of them who I'm still friends with, I was supposed to detail his wife's car this weekend out of my garage at home. He was the one that basically said, you've come to this crossroads. I was looking at keeping my business and just running it from afar, basically giving it to my assistant manager, Matt, who had been with me for a better part of a decade and followed me to different shops. He was my right arm. I could trust him. You set your clock to that guy. I could work with him, have him be the manager. He could run the shop, and I just basically sign the checks. I thought that's a possibility, but part of my percentage of my focus would always be at that shop. I could work at the rag company, but I wouldn't be fully giving them 100% if I was also trying to run my business.
Yeah.
And that I felt was not where I wanted to be. My wife and I were looking at buying a car wash, the very car wash in which my dad used the extractor at when I was born. We were looking at buying that car wash. It's a 5-bay self-serve car wash near our house. And I thought, oh, I could buy the car wash 20 hours a week. My wife and I can run and take care of that, change out the machines and wash the bays and do all that stuff on the evenings and weekends. That's an easy gig. And I'll go work at the rag company. That's when they go, well, the car wash or the detail shop, which one has the potential to make you more money? Which one has the potential of growth to do these things, but also which one takes the most amount of time? Yes, each one only has to take a certain amount of time, but where is your brain going to be? What are you going to be thinking about? So at that was when I finally just thought, you know what? I'm just going to clean break both of those. I can always come back to that car wash. The detail shop is going to be a lot more headache because I'm working 100 hours a week in that shop. This job, rag company, maybe 45, 50 hours a week. That's a huge amount of time that I now get to save. I have 2 small children at home. They're now 10 and 7, but at the time they were 5 and 3 or 5 and 2. And so it was one of those where I was like, the car wash, yes, is less time, but the time I'm going to go do all that stuff, I either have to take time away from my wife or I have to take time away from my children to do that. And so it was like, they're still too little to take them to go do that stuff. They're still too small to, 10 years down the road, that'll be perfect. Hey, bud, go grab that bucket of quarters and bring it over here, or go spray out that wash bed. Like, it's better when they're older, when I can take them and say, let's go do that. And I can give them money. But when they're 2 and 4 or 2 and 5, it doesn't, that's something I can't do. And I wasn't going to take away that time from my wife because I had already been taking a lot of time. So I couldn't just go, hey, so some of that time that I'm getting back by taking this job, I'm actually going to put it over here. So sorry, you're going to get this much time. So it was just like, nope, for my marriage, for my family, for my kids, like, let's just do the rag company. So that's how I got in. And then I started with the rag company, and it was nice because I had 100% focus to the rag company of what do we want to do?
Yeah. You're not worried about this going on or a customer having this or whatever the case may be. There's no worries, 100%.
Yeah. And that was very freeing. It hurt. I mean, it felt like a breakup, man. When I left my shop, I was still calling,
How's everything going today?
Yeah. I
Did
still
Miss
had my
Smith
camera.
still drop off on Thursday like her normal?
Yeah. I still had my camera. I was still checking on the guys, seeing what they were doing. I still had my login, but it was one of those things where I was like, once I realized 100% of my focus on the rag company and here's what we're going to do, that's when huge things started happening for us, because Dane now had me there full time to be able to bounce ideas that he had with. We had also just hired Anthony, and Anthony came on originally to help Dane edit and shoot videos. And we found out when we did his interview, we're like, holy crap, you used to do marketing for a large company. Sweet. Why don't you start doing some of the stuff here with the 3 of us? And the 3 of us just became a unit. And we just said, what can we do? What are we allowed to do? What can we do? And I remember the first time we asked Jeff, because we've been shooting stuff on our phone and an old GoPro that we had, and that was it. And we asked Jeff for a new GoPro camera. And we said, can we get a new GoPro? And I remember at the time him going, Hennen and Han over $600 and going like, oh, we'll see what the company can do, and now I'm in this huge facility that we built that, has everything and is an amazing facility. But it's funny to remember the old days when we were just starting out, and it was, can we borrow one of those? Can we just rent one? What's it going to cost to get that? Can we do that?
Seeing you guys grow has been amazing too, on the outside looking in, and then being able to visit and see the facility physically. It's like, watching you become partners with them, and then watching the rag company as a whole with you, Dane and Anthony, grow and see the direction that Jeff has allowed you guys to take and put you guys forward to take that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's been awesome. It's really been cool to watch.
It's one of those things, like, I'm glad that I was able to give. I look back now And yeah, there are regrets. You have those regrets like, dang it, I should have just kept, but I don't think we would be in the place that we are in now if I hadn't done that. I look back, there's a reason for everything. And,
Risk and
Anthony,
reward.
yeah. And Anthony, I mean, he had gotten laid off. They were going through massive layoffs and he got laid off, and he showed up here and just said, he came to the grand opening of the first building we have on our complex. And he goes, hey guys, so I don't have a job. And he was a customer. He'd just buy stuff. He'd show up and hang out for a couple hours on a Saturday and buy some things. And he was like, hey, if you need anything, I'm free. I'll sweep the floors. He came in that way. And if he hadn't just come in and said, hey, I'll sweep the floors and I'll come in and, and Dane going, well, you know how to shoot videos, that like, why don't you come help me do this? Like, maybe we could hire you part-time. And we joke, we hired him part-time for that first day. And then he was full-time after that. So, but it's all those little things, like if I could have easily told Jeff when he asked me, hey, I need help on these customer service questions. I could have said, hey man, I got my own business. I can't help you with that stuff.
Yeah.
I could have said no and just left it at that and said, no, but I'll be in next week and buy some towels. Like I could have done all those things, but none of those things would have led up to this relationship or this business or what we've created or what we've generated.
You're a giving person and you're passionate and they kind of, you guys vibed already. And it's something that you saw, not necessarily opportunity, but you enjoyed the relationship. So it was like, yeah, if you could help, why not?
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it. And I think having, I've always been a very easygoing, simple, down to earth person. And I was fascinated by the towels. I was fascinated by it because I loved learning all about that stuff. And I love learning about new detailing products. And, that's something that it always piqued my interest. I graduated high school. I never finished college. And so learning and getting my education in where I could, because I was always very intelligent, was the way. And I figured, gosh, if I'm in this industry, I've been in this industry now for this long, I need to learn this industry inside and out. I need to learn everything there is to do about it. And I need to learn processes and techniques and pH scale and chemicals and how certain things work and bond and fuse. And I've had long talks with Dave Phillips about chemistry. I've had long talks with Dr. G on chemistry. And I was a horrible chemistry student in high school. But in my 40s, I'm now learning all that stuff.
Now it piques your interest. Now you're like, yeah,
now I'm like,
it's what we do. It's who we are right now. I'm the same way. It's learn it in and out, like every part of it. At this point, this is who we are. Yeah. This is what we've become. And that's not going to change. I'm not going to take at 40 years old and go and just completely switch lanes and industries and relearn the wheel all over again.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think also part of it was I was in a unique position to be in the rag company and have access to all these folks and all of a sudden have this access, but also have this outlet. And that really pushed me in the sense that one thing I always did at my shop was when I'd have Tom stop by and show us a new product or a new tool or whatever, I'd get all my guys to just stop what they were doing. Come on. I got to finish that car. Come on. Let's go check out this. Tom, tell us about this product. Tell us about this. Tell us about that. Because I wanted them to learn, here's why I'm doing this, because I want to make your lives easier. If I can find a solution to save you time on a detail, it's going to make you more money. And I was piece rating my guys back then too. And I was taking less money out of the company and giving more of it to my guys. I was paying $45, $50 a car when I was still charging $150 on the dealer cars. So a good chunk of money was coming out of our overall profit to pay the employees because I wanted to keep my employees and I wanted them to stay and stick around and make some money. And I started paying them on my coating jobs. On a coating job, if it was $1,500, the way I worked it was if I'm paying my guys $50 for every 150 that comes in the door, then that's a $1,500 detail. I'm paying you 10 cars to do it. And if you can get it done in a day, that's good money. And if you can get it done in half a day, that's even better money. And that, my guys, when that kind of, they saw it, they were like, holy crap. All right. And I loved it when they were buying houses, buying cars and doing stuff. And so our end of the year sales were never, they were high and our profit was very low, but all my guys were comfortable. All my guys were happy. All my guys weren't scraping by and having a hard go of it. And when customers paid cash, if I had a customer walk in the door on, it was a Friday and they paid $500 cash on a detail and I had 5 guys sitting there, $100 bills all around. Like, this is a cash deal. Guys, I'm not even gonna count this for the back end. You know, we did it. We had a great week. We had a great month or whatever. Here you go. And so, you know, and I take my guys to breakfast and lunch and all that stuff, you know, on snow days or just any, you know, anything where it's like, let's get out of here. The weather's too nice. Let's go grab some food. Let's go do this, you know. So I always tried to make it a fun place to work. And that was also kind of what was my attitude coming into the rag companies. We just want to have, I want to enjoy the day. I want to have fun doing what we're doing. And if we can help others and that energy comes across that way to where you enjoy watching a rag company video because you think we're having fun and we're going to have fun with you and you can be a part of it, but you can learn something, by all means. Like, that's the goal, right? That's our end game. Is I'm not trying to sell you anything. No, I'm trying to educate you. And that's our actual motto here at the rag company, is education first. If I can educate you and teach you the magic of a microfiber towel, or how to properly wash your microfiber towel, or how to use this compound, or how to use bead maker the right way, or whatever it is, you don't have to buy it from us. You can go buy it from, you know, Detailed Image. You can go buy it from Detailers. You can go buy it from AutoGeek. You can go buy it. It doesn't matter. You learned it, and I helped teach you that. And that is a huge deal, because maybe you'll come back and watch the video. Maybe you'll come back and maybe you'll buy something from me later on, but at least I influenced your life in a positive manner. At least I helped you save money. At least I helped you make more money. At least I taught you a new trick or an efficiency. And that's all it is. At the end of the day, that's all it is. And if you trust me enough to continue to watch me and listen to what I have to say, because I've proven, awesome. That's all I need. That's all we need. That's all any of us need. You know, there's so many different ways that people feel like everyone's out to get them, when all of us are just trying to help each other out. And it's harder and harder. And it's those of us that had to deal with it back in the day when detailing was a pretty crummy job. And you were just I remember going to my 10-year high school reunion and guys going, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, what do you do? I'm a doctor. Oh, what do you do? And I went to a private school for high school. And so I went with a bunch of rich kids whose dads were neurologists and dads were cardiologists, and they had the big houses and all that. And for me to go, I'm cleaning cars. I remember at 10 years, I felt not great, but not good, right? That would have been 2000. I graduated in 98, so it would have been 2008, you know, the downturn of the market. But I wash cars, you know. 2018, I'm at my 20-year reunion, and everyone's like, holy crap, dude, I've seen you on YouTube. Holy cow, man, I started doing, I'm actually cleaning that's one of my things. That's the way I like to relax. That's how I do this. Oh my gosh, I spent $1,500 last month at the rag company. I did this, I did that. There's a girl that I knew in high school. We were in art class together. She works for a microfiber company as well, but they make textiles, microfiber textiles for clothes. So she figures out how to make performance fabrics and how to do. And so she was like, hey, you and I technically do the same job. And I was like, holy crap, that's so weird. Awesome. But we started talking, and it was one of those things where I was like, man, it's weird how 10 years ago, I was just the dude washing cars. And I got some customers from kids that I went to high school with. And now, oh, you're brand development manager for a major corporation. Cool. Wow. Awesome. Great for you, man. I've been watching your YouTube channel. This is great. So cool.
By the way, I still wash cars.
Yeah. By the way, I'm still washing cars every weekend out of my garage for customers, because I have 25 years of customer database that still call me and still say, hey, I know it's been 4 years since you detailed my car. Are you free?
Yeah.
Well, not really, but what do you got? Here's the date. And I give it to them sometimes 3 months out, and they're like, yeah, perfect. I'll take it. Lock me in.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the only person that's touched my car. All right, cool. Thank you. So it's nice to see where our industry is at now.
Mhm.
And I'm proud to be able to help that growth, I hope. And I hope to continue that growth and make it easier. And I look at like, how old are your kids?
4 and gonna be 17.
Yeah. So I look at mine that are 10 and 7, and I look at what can I do to get them started for the next, get them going to where they can learn. My parents gave me a bit of a foundation by teaching me how to wash and wax cars. And I turned it into something else. It's not everything I ever wanted at the time, but they did what they could do the best way they knew how. So how can I now, with all of this knowledge in the industry, how do I get these two set up the next way forward? And that's kind of my goal now, is to show them, one, my work ethic as best I can, show them what I do. They see me in the garage every weekend working on a car. I ask them if they want to come out and help me on stuff. I try to use all non-toxic biodegradable products with my children, because I need them to be able to help me and not have any issues. And I don't want my wife yelling at me, what are you doing spraying acid, hydrofluoric acid, getting water spots off, and the kids are running around. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Why are they coughing like that?
Yeah, got it. But so I use a lot of O&R at home to detail and do a majority of my stuff. I try not to do any heavy decon stuff at home. I always want them to be able to come and play. If I'm using a foam cannon, I want my boy out there spraying and hitting the car with a foam cannon. I want my daughter to be able to use it. I want them to be able to understand this process. And then I thought, gosh, I'm going to learn leather repair. So on my 40th birthday, I took a color lock class. On this last year, I devoted a lot of time to vinyl wrapping. I've got 2 classes scheduled this year here at the Rag Company for Avery Dennison with Justin Pate through their SW 900 color change clinics. So you can check out Avery Dennison's website for that. We're also going to be doing PPF here with the new Avery Dennison PPF. So we've got a class for that. Then I set up with 3M, and I'm working on 3M classes as well for their vinyl wrapping and their stuff here at the Rag Company.
Nice.
And next year, my goal is tint. I want to try and get window tinting classes here so that we can start. One, I want to learn. If my boy goes, man, I just love playing with this vinyl wrap in your, I want to start wrapping the cars with you. Cool. Maybe I make a next kid that's a vinyl wrapper that's all he does, and he goes off and I can help him build a little business and for vinyl wrapping cars. Awesome. If he wants to do window tint and just do window tint, sweet. If my daughter loves window tint because it's not noisy, because she's autistic, she's like, man, the buffers, the polishers, the air I don't like, but I can do window tint because I can put my headphones on and just do this. Sweet. I'll help her learn how to tint windows. The goal is to just get my trades down, spend the next 10 years teaching my kids how to do this stuff on these weekends. Maybe I get a little help on the side, help them clean cars. But if I can give them some of my skills and my trades that I can teach them, that maybe they use, maybe they don't, maybe they go do something totally different, at least I can pass that along. And in the meantime, I can also hopefully teach others that maybe are interested. Maybe there's guys in the detail shop or gals in the detail shop that are curious about window tinting, curious about adding PPF, curious about vinyl wrapping, curious about, leather repair and restoration, things like that, which are services now that back in the day used to just be solo shops. Yeah. And now more and more detail shops are encompassing all of this. More and more wrap shops are adding detailers and coding and I mean, it's getting
cross applications of everything is coming together. And like you said, a lot of those services were through like recon guys that went to dealerships that did a good enough job to get, to get the job done.
Yeah. exactly. We had a guy that would come and do headlights because he was fast, and he'd do them for $50. They'd last 1 year, but he was fast and quick, and he could get headlights done in 15 minutes. And so I'd call him because I could charge my customer $100, pay him 50, he'd have it done in 15 minutes and be gone. And for me, I was like, that was a killer deal. I made $50 and didn't have to worry about it. But now we all do headlight restorations now. Now we've all learned all that stuff. But at the time, I had a guy, Kelly Scott. I still see a guy locally. He lives in my neighborhood. He was the leather repair guy. That's all he did. He'd drive around in a Suburban with his leather repair kit, and he'd come to your detail shop or car lot and fix a cut or a tear or stitch or whatever, and now that's all becoming part of it. And so it was just one of those things where I thought, man, I need to learn all this stuff. So, and that's where I'm at now. And then I've got my little podcast that I haven't done enough of. It's consistency. Here at work, I get paid for it. So I do it twice a week. At home, sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day left, and my brain is just melted and I don't have anything else to say. But my goal for 2022 is to get some more episodes done of the Master of Shine at Home podcast. And that is more me just as a person. It's not, there's some detailing stuff, but it's mostly life. It's just how we're dealing with things, how our weekend went, how our week went, our goals as a family. And my goal this year is to kind of do a little more interviews with folks such as yourself, other detailers, but as parents, and just how we find that work-life balance, our thoughts, our fears, our hope for our children and our families, and what we can do and make sure that we're always trying to strive for that right balance in that, because it's hard for a lot of us. Each one of us has struggles. My daughter's autistic. My son's a type 1 diabetic. My wife and I still don't sleep. My son's 7 years old, and that we have to check his pump and his constant glucose monitor every night, and we dose him every night, and it feels like we have a newborn still. So that never went away, so there's things like that, that we always have to do, that becomes part of the life. It becomes a struggle in the life for anything, whether it's financial or physical or emotional. It's all those things. So that's kind of what I'm looking at doing with my podcast, and just talk to others. And a lot of it is that it all stems from being that solo guy in the detail shop, just wondering, is there anybody out there that I can talk to that has these same problems I have with this compound, with this towel, with this machine? At the time I only had Tom, and he'd come back and go, no, that's it. Everything should work. Okay, well, I'm having issues. And it basically just a standard dilution of that, where hey, there's got to be other people out there that are having these issues. And I've been able to connect with a lot of folks on the internet because of that.
It's a positive thing about social media, right?
Yeah, but there's always more of us. There's new detailers born every minute, literally.
Oh, God.
And there's new detailers that are learning about Buff and Shine. They're learning about the right company. They're learning about Flex. They're learning about Root Beds. They're learning about all the different companies and brands. And it surprises me, because just when I think I don't have anything else left to say, I've said it all. It's on all our videos. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Justin. Like, holy cow, I can't keep talking about this one technique. But there's always a new person that stumbles upon it and goes, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much time you saved me, how helpful you were. And at the end of the day, that's really all it is about, is helping those folks and helping those customers, so that's what we do.
The redundancy does tend to get a little wearing at times with some of the questions and things that that maybe we went and figured out on our own because we had resources, whether it be a person or social media or the internet at some level, to where we just took it upon ourselves to seek out the answer and found it, right?
Yep.
And some people, I think, due to the instant gratification of having it at your fingertips, to be able to Google or search it, that's all it is. It's no longer, I'm going to do it myself and do the homework. It's, I'm just going to call this person or ask this person. And it's nice. Don't get me wrong. What we're here to do is help people. But sometimes it's some of the simplest stuff that's like, and then you tell them it, and then they don't listen. It just kind of like they only
One
listen
ear
to
in, one ear out the
respond.
other.
They don't listen to actually absorb it. So, but you know, that's the pros and cons of being in that position where people are listening, is that some people will get it, some people won't, and sometimes you have to hit the repeat button for them to completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and that's our Thursday. Every Thursday we have our live Q&A from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And was just a way to ease our customer service questions that we get every day. And it's like, hey, tune in and ask your question and we'll answer it. And that's when we bring on we try to have a guest on, we try to have you've been on it. It's just, we try to just answer any detailing question we can get. And it's surprising when there's some simple, easy, basic questions, but that's why we do. That's why the Q&A is every Thursday from 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to 4 p.m. And that's just log on to YouTube, the Rag Company channel, and ask your question if you have one. And a lot of detailers put that on in their shop while they're working, because maybe a question pops up that they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think to ask that. Now I know exactly the answer to it. And that's kind of the fun part about it. So, and it keeps it fresh, keeps it new, and it's a fun show for us to do. And that really helps. But it also takes a load off customer service, because our team can say, hey, why don't you tune in and ask? That's a great question to ask on the show. And
that's a cool
folks
approach.
can do that. So, and that's what it's for. A lot of people think it's kind of silly, and why did we do this? But it's really eased customer service, because we field a lot of stuff. And so it's nice to be able to hear it from us while we're talking or telling a story, rather than one of our customer service reps who are very knowledgeable and very well qualified. That still people want to hear it
from a
us.
technician detailer standpoint, it's like I could hear from the customer representative and they can answer it, or I could hear it in the common conversation of some detailers that are just kind of, hanging out, talking and answering questions. And it's like, not that you're discrediting the customer service guy, but hearing it from them, it's just, there's something that has more weight there for some reason as a detailer, you know what I mean? Listening to other detailers. Yeah.
So that's kind of it. But it's been fun. And this has been for me, I can't believe where we've come from, where we started and where we're at now. I don't know what the future holds. My goal is growth across the world. We've got Rag Company Europe, based in the Netherlands, and they handle all of our European stuff. And then we've got John Hull at Clean and Shiny UK that handles all of our UK stuff. And then Mark Perch down in Australia, who handles Australia and New Zealand at AU Car Care Co. And they help facilitate. They're all geniuses in what they do, and they've all been in the industry for a very long time. And they've all each built their own network out. Each one's very different, but they're all part of the Rag Company team. And our goal is just to try and increase our visibility, but also that's kind of what I'm looking to transition to in the IDA. So, for the last 2.5 years, I've been the CertCom chair, and my goal after this, now Clint's going to be taking on CertCom. I'm thinking I might want to do chapter development and help grow the IDA itself as a whole internationally through that. So it's been one of those things, but that was me. I was in the IDA I joined in 2012 and made it a part of my business. And then when I joined this company, I made it a part of the Rag Company, and we got in the Founders Club, and it's just been it, and I've got myself as an RT, Anthony is a CDSV, John Green, who's our COO, is a CDSV, and he did all that on his own. That was the most amazing thing. He took all that stuff, did his tests on his own. Josh Petro, who's our international business development, he's a CDSV, and now he's sitting on the board for the IDA. And then Juan Gonzalez, who's a CDSV and going to be applying for his RT application here, hopefully in the next month. So it's the company's committed to further, the IDA and its education and all of that stuff. And so that's kind of our goal too with that, is just to, it's another place for detailers to connect. It's It's another place for all of us to make a difference in the industry as a whole, and
Absolutely.
make it better for everybody that comes after us. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. So
Now,
but yeah.
with where we're at on time, as much as I want to continue this because it's going, I'm enjoying it. I always love having time with you in general, which is really neat. But as far as see, I'm trying to think about, and you covered a lot. Advice. Is there any advice that you have for any of the detailers? Just something quick and easy for those that are listening.
So I have a lot of arthritis. I have a lot of pain and damage from years of buffing, from years of improper technique, years of, running an old rotary. Ergonomics are your friends, and being ergonomic when you're working, learning how to use your body, learning how to exercise. Justin, you know that, like it's, I think too many times we get into this lifestyle where we're just working and we're not taking care of ourselves. And that can be mentally, that can be physically, that can be emotionally. I see a therapist. I've seen it. I haven't seen one in a while, almost a year now, but I saw a therapist for a while. Just talk things out, talk things through, questions, problems that you might be having. I think, as I learn more and more about mental health, the more I'm trying to take in as much as I can, or at least help in any way I can. I'm very low on that scale with folks. So don't think that I'm a voice of reason in this, but I will say that I see, take care of your body. This is the probably best tool that you have in your business. And when you can get to the point in your business where you don't have to detail every day, do it. Make that change, because it's going to fail. There are going to be parts of you that are going to fail. And it's not like when the brushes break on the buffer and you're down a buffer for a day. If your arm doesn't work, if your hand stops working, if your elbows stop working, it's not fun. If your knees go out, your back goes out, it's not fun, because it takes you out of the game. And so it's the most important tool you have, your brain and your body and your heart, and you need to take care of them. And so if I could do it all over again, I would have seen a therapist more often. If I could do it all over again, I would have relaxed a little more. I wouldn't have worked so hard. I wouldn't have had a death grip. I would have gotten gloves with pads so that my hands didn't hurt. Now when I detail, I have gloves. I have pressure gloves with palm things on my hands, and I have braces that hold my forearm and my elbows in place so that I limit the amount of trauma on them, because I have the shoulders, as my orthopedist said, I have the shoulders of an 80-year-old man because of all that tendon damage from polishing. And so I would remind folks to get yourselves checked out, keep yourselves healthy. You are your most important tool when it comes to detailing. And a lot of folks don't think about that. The other thing is, don't go on this alone. Don't do this alone. Become friends with the shops around your neighborhood. Become friends with them. Take them out to dinner. Plan something where you just go out to eat, or host an event at your shop and invite them. Become friends with them, because they can take on the workload. I have seen so many detailers that go, man, I got my business taking over the city. In the Treasure Valley where I'm at, there's 1 million people in 4 surrounding cities. My shop at the height of its business was only doing 4,000 cars a month. And I had 6 employees, 4,000 cars a year, sorry, not a month, but 4,000 cars total for the year. That is a drop in the bucket when there are 2 million, potential 2 million cars in my area. There is no way I'm going to get all those cars. Absolutely no way. If I only got 4,000 of them and I busted my butt to get those 4,000, no way. And if I try to get 8,000, that's insane. That's insane, right? But that's nothing.
Mentally and physically, you're
cars.
done.
Yeah. there's 2 million cars, man. You're never going to hit that. And once you lay it out that way for detailers and they see, oh, we all have an ego. We all have this, once you realize, if you can pair with another shop, if you can become friends with these other detailers, and then you can refer each other back and forth when you're 3 months out and a customer calls and they're like, shoot, I really was hoping to get in. If you refer them to a customer or refer a customer to a friend of yours, and you say, this guy is awesome, or this gal is awesome, I've been doing work with her for years. They do great work. Call them, see if they can get you in. And if not, here's another name that you can call. That goes so much to that customer that you're willing to refer them to a good detailer, to another professional detailer such as yourself. That is huge. And so if you can push that and help, I've gotten details where I've given a customer a referral to another shop, and that customer has called me back and said, that person was the most nicest, helpful, wonderful. They had nothing but great things to say about you. So I got my car scheduled with them, but I want to get my other car scheduled from 3 months from now, or whenever you're next available. I'll get my second car done from you. Perfect. I still scheduled the detail. And I helped one of my buddies out by scheduling a detail, and vice versa, because it becomes a two-way street. And the more detailers that you can get in your network that work with you, the better it is, because it's somebody that you can play with in the sense that you can bounce ideas off of. Maybe they're doing something in their business that you should be doing in your business. Maybe they've taken a training or a class or an education seminar that you need to do. You can become a better business owner. You can become a better detailer. You can become probably a better parent, a better spouse. There's so much stuff that can be done. And we don't have to do this alone anymore.
No.
That's the biggest thing. So,
Thank
yeah,
it.
of course, man.
What is some good plugs for you if people get a hold of you if they have questions?
Well, they can, obviously the Rag Company, my email's Levi@theragcompany.com. You can send me an email. You can find me on Facebook, Levi Gates, or on my public profile, or Levi Gates on my private profile. You can follow the MOSHQ on there, or the Rag Company. And then the podcast is the Master of Shine at Home podcast, wherever you get podcasts at. And then, of course, tune in always to the Rag Company YouTube channel and the Rag Company podcast YouTube channel. We've got tons of stuff. We're always doing things. We've got a lot of new videos, and we've got TRCMA coming up end of March, first week of April. We're going to be broadcasting live for 5 days. All our favorite brands are coming to hang out. And you'll see it all. So everything that we sell here at the Rag Company, every single brand is planning on being here and attending. And we're going to be, it's basically our media access, our big show with all the new stuff. So that's it.
Very cool. Very cool. Levi, thank you. And of course, on behalf of Buff and Shine for being on for the Reflection Artist podcast. Again, number 59, Levi Gates, Rag Company, or the Rag Company, I should say. But thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. Of course,
brother.
And anybody and everybody who has had the opportunity to listen now and or listen later, of course. So cool. Well, I will catch up with you. I actually see you at Mobile-Tech. So
yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So if those aren't going, if you don't know what it is, Mobile-Tech Expo Orlando, check it out.
Worth it.
Well worth it with the detail industry. We have a very dominant presence there now, and IDA and all the major manufacturers that you already existingly purchased through or want to start to and understand their products. They're there. The reps are there. So thanks again, Levi. And
you're welcome, brother. Anytime.
All right. Take care.
See ya.